Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have a planning commission meeting tonight. This is Thursday, January 9th of 2020, 6 o'clock. First thing on our agenda is approval of the agenda of January 9th of 2020. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any disapproval? Okay, number 3, approval of minutes of November the 7th of 2019. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor? Okay, number 4 is election of officers. First one is chairperson. Do I have any nominations?
Anything to nominate Tom Fox?
Any other nominations?
I move the nomination.
Everybody approved with that one? Okay with that one?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
And a secretary for this evening. Do I have any nominations? Chairperson would be incorrect. Anybody for secretary?
Both. No. One of you guys should be able to. How about you, buddy?
Well, make a nomination.
Who about that? Okay. All right. Second? I'd make a motion we nominate the guy on the end.
Who second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, disapprove. Okay, we have a new chairperson. Ooh, make all that big money. Don't be laughing. Number 5 is a conditional use permit. Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Do we need to open the public hearing?
You can.
This time I'd like to open the public hearing.
This application should look pretty familiar to some of you because this is at least the second time that we've had a renewal of this conditional use permit on your agenda. Martin Marietta leases space in the Burlington Northern Santa Fe rail yard. It's just east and a little to the south of our redevelopment area on the east side of I-35. The original CUP and the first renewal were both for 5-year periods, and this renewal is before you for another 5-year period. Conditional use permits do require a public hearing. That was advertised on Christmas Day for the hearing tonight. There's really not a whole lot that's new in the staff report tonight. I would note that 5 years ago, we had included a condition with regard to screening that then we discussed with the Planning Commission last fall and determined that the screening was really impractical given the location that this yard is located within the interior of the rail yard. And so that has been removed from this conditional use permit renewal. So we have this, with that exception, we have the same conditions on this CUP that we did have on the CUP approval 5 years ago. The applicant is here, and I'm sure that they would be happy to talk further about their plans for the area.
Any discussion from my commissioners? Any questions? Wants, desires?
I guess the only thing that maybe there would be a dust problem. And I think that was covered in the conditions, yeah. Really, I mean, I don't see any point in not just going ahead with it. I mean, it's something that has to be done. And so I move that we, with the condition, how do you do that?
Well, you need to hold the public hearing first.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, can you all speak more closely into your
Sorry.
microphones because we're having a hard time
Is
hearing
there a
you.
staff report on this, or?
Unless you have further comments, I wasn't going to say a whole lot. We could
Okay.
have the applicant give you their presentation.
Okay. If the applicant wishes to.
We definitely can if you'd like to. My name is Matt Roosevelt. I'm the Vice President General Manager for Martin Marietta in Kansas City. We do have a few slides if you guys want to see what we do down there. Basically, as Taylor mentioned, we've been down there since 2010. The two renewals of special use permit. We're looking for another 5 years. We bring in granite material from the location we have in Oklahoma to satisfy the Kansas City Metro Materials Board. They have this concrete that uses granite, a little bit of asphalt. You can't get hard rock around here, everything's fine. So to satisfy that spec, that's what we use. The only viable option is that we use picture of the site. The zoning into, which we're not asking to change that, just continue on with the zoning. And you can just see standards that you got already found. As she mentioned, the lease area and where the NSF property line is with the, by the came out of it. We have some pictures of how we unload. This is what the yard looks like as you enter off the 16th Street. Train is in the back of the arrow was basically looking to the northeast along the rail siding. We take excavators on top of the rail cars. We try to control some of the dust. Part of car, keep unloading. They're very skilled.
They better be.
And then they'll load into, take it off of the train and put it into trucks, and then put it in piles of That's kind of what we have, and we're happy to answer any other questions.
I heard at one time that there was a possibility that somebody might have found the kind of rock you need in this area.
That would be us as well, at our, at our Randolph mine, which is
Yeah.
underneath World of Fun. It's a limestone, we mine Cedar Valley there, but the qualities of that, limestone is very similar to a granite. Now we just have to get the different municipalities to understand that gray rock is not bad, like there's been conditions to believe, but yes. So it's our hope that at some point we won't need to bring up as much granite, but that's not today.
And I don't, you might explain too that why you have to use this certain type of rock.
Yeah, so it's been in since about 2009, 2008, 2009. They started wanting to bring in granite materials to the market because limestone, most limestone in this part of the country is gray. So people that aren't familiar with the aggregates have a hard time distinguishing between a quality limestone and a non-quality limestone. They were getting some concretes that wasn't lasting to the full life cycle. So instead of trying to, put some specs in and hold people accountable, we went to the hard rock. It's usually black, pink, or gray, depending, or black, pink, or red, depending where it's coming from. Ours is mostly red.
Any other questions?
Are you aware of any concerns or complaints that have come your way from?
We have not. I have a few people here that would have heard them. We have had no.
In that
And we
10-year
understand you
period.
guys are doing development around there, so we're cognizant of that and doing everything we can to keep the dust down to a minimum and impact. The trucks go straight out 16th and take a left on the highway, so it doesn't go through the development at all.
Can you tear down that old elevator and grind it up and use it?
If you want to take it down, we can crush it. That's for sure.
Okay.
Other questions then, gentlemen?
I would note, I mentioned that there are no new conditions in here, and while that's mostly correct, I would point out that condition number 4, which was previously part of the CUP, we added a sentence that trucks shall not use Diamond Parkway to access the subject property. So we did add a little bit more to the conditions for this.
Yeah, we done that.
But otherwise, staff recommends approval with the stated conditions.
I will close the public hearing.
Aye.
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 Aye. No, we need to vote on it, correct?
Yeah, I motion that we
Close.
approve with the,
Close the public.
can I have a motion that we close the public hearing?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Now I need a motion on the conditional use permit.
I move we approve this motion with the staff recommendations of couple up for another 5-year term subject to the following conditions of approval.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen. If you guys want to escape out of here, go right ahead.
This will be on the January 21st City Council agenda for final.
Item number 6, the preliminary and final plat. This time I'd like to open the public hearing. Sarah, go right ahead.
This preliminary and final plat concerns a property or former right-of-way that was vacated by the city council earlier in 2019. And so the plat is being amended to include this area in the rest of the Northgate Village residential plat there at the corner of 32nd and Swift. So these next two items really go together, but we're considering the plat first. It is a new preliminary plat because this area was not included in the original preliminary plat for Northgate Village. And so our last couple of plats have been, this is a combined preliminary and final plat. The preliminary plat process does require a public hearing, and this was advertised on December 25th for the public hearing tonight. This is really a minor change to the plat for this area. We have no conditions no concerns with the criteria for review for preliminary plats for this item. And we would this is 2 actions just for the plat. We would recommend approval of the preliminary plat and then recommend that you recommend approval of the final plat to the city council. John Burkle with Huntman West is here. If you have any questions of him or would like him to describe what they're doing with these 2 applications, I know he'd be happy to.
Hearing talk.
Good evening. Am I on? My name is John Burkle. I'm with Hunt Midwest. What we have done is that with the North Swift area, how it intersects with 32nd Street, that diagonal interchange had been rebuilt, and with that, a triangular type of land had been left over. What we have done is that is the last location for the plan for our last townhome group. The original PUD was drawn as a master plan as a 6-plex. The difficulty with that is that we have built all of these as 4-plex with our builder. The city would require that 6-plex be built as a commercial building with sprinkler systems because it's over 4. We have extra land, and with this, we can build the same 6, but we will separate the 6 to build 3 with a 15-foot space, and then the other 3. So it matches up more with the patterns of the rest of the row homes in Northgate Village.
No, okay, on the first one was drawn in green here. That's where you're talking about putting 3 there, and then is it gonna be 3 in that other vacant lot east?
No, the area that's outlined in green is going to contain all 6 of these.
Oh,
That was the
all right.
original lot. So this plat enlarges that original lot to include some of that former right-of-way, so that they have the extra space he mentioned to break those into
Is there anything
2
in
threes.
the plan for the space behind that?
Well, yes, because it would then be our property and under the HOA, we would then maintain that since it's our property. It gives us a little bit more green space, and even though there is a limitation on moving things north due to an AT&T line that has fiber and all kinds of things in it, we could not move them. But it'll be more of a park-like pocket park area. So I think it adds a value, and we left the sidewalk just so we could access that as well. And we've taken into consideration monumentation, which would be on the southeast side of that sidewalk. There had been some public comments by one of the neighbors the last time when I was here that was concerned about seeing across the street. So we took that into consideration and moved some of the monumentation away from the corner. So I think it'll feel good.
Well, close the public hearing,
Close the public.
please.
I motion we close the public hearing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Got a motion?
We need to, motion we approve the preliminary plat
Correct. And?
and no, we'll just do that one first, then we have to have a
Okay.
second.
I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And now for the,
I motion we make a recommendation to pass this along to the city council for the final plat.
Are you recommending approval?
Yes, with the recommendation for approval.
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? On number 7 then.
So-
Defeating the amendment.
Yeah, this item is a continuation of your last item. With the change to the plat, then we also need to amend the PUD. The Northgate Village PUD is very specific in that it shows all of the footprints of all of the buildings that are being constructed in this area, and where we're going to have monument signs and where landscaping is being installed. So this is a relatively minor amendment to the PUD that reflects the change to the plat and allowing the developer to break that group of 6 townhomes into 2 groups of 3. Staff recommends, this is also another public hearing item, separate public hearing from the plat, and staff recommends approval of the amendment.
Any discussion, gentlemen? I'd like to close the public. Let's open it. Let's open the public hearing. Motion to open.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now let's close it. Now we're gonna close it.
Unless this gentleman has any other public comments.
I don't, thank you.
Okay.
Motion to close it.
Quit while you're ahead.
So moved.
And the second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now I need a blessing. No, okay.
So are we moving to forward this to the council? So moved.
Can you specify the recommendation?
Yes, my recommendation is that this commission forward the recommendation to the full city council.
Recommendation of
approval.
approval. Can you
Approval,
specify
sorry.
that? Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir. You can escape to it.
Thank you very much.
This
Good evening.
final plat and the PUD amendment will both be on the January 21st city council agenda.
On to item 8, zoning text. It's, public hearing, I believe, is still open at this time. Tabled it. Correct?
That is correct, although I would note that we did also, since we were advertising the other 3 public hearings, we added this to the advertisement also. So it was re-advertised for tonight's meeting.
Do I need to open it again then? Is it still open?
It's still open.
Back to you, then, sir.
Well, I had forgotten to open this one, so it's being a little slow, but I will refresh your memories a little bit. When we adopted the new zoning ordinance in last July, it included a new section on accessory dwelling units and the requirements for constructing an accessory dwelling unit in North Kansas City. Generally speaking, you can build an accessory dwelling unit either attached to a single-family home, such as an attic apartment, or in a detached structure, such as a garage. We do have several requirements that have to be met. It can't exceed more than 50% of the principal dwelling or 1,200 square feet, whichever is less. You have to provide an additional parking space on the site. It has to be designed to be compatible with the appearance and character of the principal building. And the city does have to issue a certificate of occupancy before you start using it. We also, number 5, is the requirement that the property owner occupy either the principal or accessory dwelling as their permanent residence. And we had a request to consider the removal of that number 5 about owner occupancy. When the commission discussed this back in November, there were several questions that staff was asked to look into further. And so that's the new information in your packet tonight. We added some answers about average home sizes in North Kansas City, neighborhood compatibility, and information about other cities with accessory dwelling unit regulations. Bradley did a lot of research on other requirements in the cities of Riverside, Parkville, Gladstone, Lee Summit, Lawrence, and Overland Park. We'd also note that KCMO and Liberty also allow the development of ADUs. So that's the information that's presented in your packet tonight. The public hearing is still open. You have the option of making a recommendation to the city council on this or to continue the public hearing again if you wish.
No, we were provided information from the AARP, which is helpful. Thank you for sharing that material. I think one of the concerns that I have as I'm kind of looking at some of these, that a lot of these areas are Portland, Oregon, Santa Cruz, California, places where land and accessibility to affordable housing are huge issues. Denver, Colorado. So I think there has tended to be a greater need in some of those areas for some affordable living options. The time that we're seeing a number of apartment buildings coming to fruition here in the area, this one concerns me a little bit. I'll be honest with you as a commissioner, because I'm watching Kansas City for right now, for example, going through a great deal of issues with tenant issues. They've just approved significant tenant rights bills that have been aimed at dealing with out-of-state owners and operators of these kinds of property. Not these kinds of properties per se, but properties that are not well kept. And so the idea of striking the idea that it needs, if I lived there, and I mean, if this is something that we're looking at doing as a potential dwelling unit, there is an incentive, obviously, if I live in the front of the house, to make sure that the back of the house isn't going crazy, or that the parking is appropriate. So I guess just as a discussion, that's one of the things that I'm kind of considering as I'm looking at this as the new guy with new eyes. But there's certainly lots of areas in the Kansas City metro area that this is, tenants' rights issues are becoming very critical right now.
Well, I just drive down the alley at 21st Street, and we've got 3 or 4 just little garages that are living quarters, and I know it's got a lot better than what it was a number of years ago, but I've known people that have lived in places that I wouldn't put my dog in, but I know that's a lot better. But I agree that we need low-income housing, but I don't think we need it all in North Kansas City. I mean, I think we've got enough. Maybe someday I might have to build a little shack out behind my house and let my kids take care of me. But as long as they're living there, I can see doing that. But I just don't like the idea of just somebody buying a house and then turning it into apartments. I just don't. I would turn this thing down.
Run
I agree with that completely, especially when you look at the map and you look at the avenues. There's not a lot. The houses are on top of each other. When you talk about making new parking, there is no making. You're parking on the streets. There's tons of people. So I'm at the same. It would be tough for me to.
Appreciate everybody's insight. I do appreciate all the extra information that's provided. I learned a lot about what is going on around the nation and that we do have issues. I really like the statistics of what's happening here in Northtown with the average home price and the average rent price. So I think as a city, long term, we do need to figure out how everything we can do to keep that in check. While this one may not be the right thing right now, it's something that we all need to think about is what can we do to try to help that so that, it doesn't become a place where, people who are teachers and firefighters can't afford to live because rent prices and everything are too expensive. So that's something that I think we'll just want to keep in mind. But yeah, this doesn't feel right now.
We need to close the cameras. I have all those in favor?
All right.
Vote on this. All those in favor of a zoning section?
Oh.
A motion of recommendation?
Well, and do we need to be,
Say,
okay.
We could
Don't need to make a recommendation.
Yes.
No.
This will still appear on a city council agenda because you're not the deciding body, but you need to make a recommendation to them of approval or denial.
I see.
And we're denying, from what I understand, we're denying the strike through.
Right.
Okay.
Wording is, I find it. There it is.
Number 5. Yeah.
So I recommend approval of the proposed amendment as presented by the staff.
No,
Of denial.
Decline to recommend approval to the city council. Decline.
Oh, approval of this statement. I understand what you're saying.
Decline.
Make the motion.
I make the motion, we decline to recommend approval to the city council.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Got our correction. Number 9.
I will note that this will also be on the January 21st agenda with your recommendation of denial.
It still goes to the council.
Yes, it does.
And is it an action item?
Yes, it is.
Number 9.
Number 9, bylaws discussion. I will actually call on Bradley to give the staff report on this item.
So this has been a sort of a project that I've been working on since my time began here. Obviously, it's sort of taken a step back with all the activity going on in the city. But essentially, what we're trying to do is to form bylaws that establish the management structure of the commission, procedures, and all other general process. Over the course of the time that I've been working on this, I think I've looked over, 10, 12 bylaws, and they're all pretty straightforward. They often represent what's seen on the outline that we have before you. Basically just establishing authorization, terms of membership, and duties of members and staff. It also touches on the meetings and how those meetings are held. So what we would like to know from you is just to take a look over the outline itself. This is a work in progress, but we'd like your feedback if there's anything missing. From my understanding, election of officers is missing from this outline, so. Any feedback from you tonight would be great, and we'll continue to work on this.
The only thing I might say under conduct of meetings, under Robert's rules, I mean, we don't hold real close to Robert's rules, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't think that we want to bind ourselves into where we have to comply completely with Robert's rules.
So I've seen a lot of bylaws that reference we use a modified version of Robert's rules
Yeah.
for exactly that reason. And so, we could certainly put in here that same kind of language that it's but we're still asking people to make motions and seconds and et cetera. Or if you prefer, we could say, the planning commission uses the same rules of order that are used by the city council. It's really up to you.
That might be the simplest, because, we're on the city council, so we're used to how that works. Not very well, but.
Use a modified version of Robert's
Yeah.
rules. That's
Yeah, this is just a discussion item, just to make sure that we were on the right track and there's nothing else that in looking at this you see that you think is missing, or if you had any concerns about any of these items or wanted to give us direction.
What if we run into something where we have something of a conflict of interest? Somebody,
Right, so one of our goals in putting this together is to try to clarify what we would consider a conflict of interest and then what you should do if you think you have a conflict of interest. This hasn't come up in the 6.5 years that I've been here, but we just wanted to make sure that you all had a good guidelines for if that should come up, or we elect officers the first meeting of every calendar year, just because that's our habit, but to put that into the bylaws that this is actually how we're going to do it. So that would be part of the with that heading conflict of interest would be to say this is how we're defining conflict of interest, and this is what we would ask planning commissioners to do if they do have a conflict. Well, Bradley will continue working on this so that we can put a draft before you in your next couple of meetings. I will say, we were expecting this meeting, well, we thought this meeting might last a little bit longer than this. So we had not planned to do training tonight. The webinar is, there's a section on legal foundations for decision making that we think might be helpful. So we had kind of planned to do that next month because this was a long agenda for us. So it's there at the bottom, but we weren't really planning to do that tonight. I think, do we have anything else? We have, we are working with our consultants on scheduling a meeting with regard to the Burlington Corridor Complete Street improvements, but we don't have a date established quite yet. We're waiting to hear back from MoDOT, but that's coming up and is probably going to be in February. And that's really the only thing on the horizon that I wanted to flag for you all. We do have the final, a complete draft of the bicycle master plan back from our consulting team on that we're reviewing right now. So that is getting to a conclusion and will be before you at some point in the near future as well. And we will be having a February meeting. We are expecting to receive an application tomorrow. It will be on that agenda. And I think that's all from staff tonight.
Any comments?
Just a quick question. Can I get information about there are some of those areas that I don't personally believe this is the option. But it is important to have
Sure. We had a presentation on affordable housing in North Kansas City that was made to the City Council in December of 2018, which is probably the most up-to-date and complete information about affordable housing here, we can forward to you a copy of that presentation. And that's probably, it's only a year, so that information is not too dated at this point. The figures that are in there wouldn't be too out of date, so we can forward that to you.
Do you have any idea about the price points of new apartments? What kind, do you have any idea about rental on those or what we're talking about?
They're marketing them as luxury apartments.
But now the ones that are supposed to going in down here by the line, those are gonna be more mid-range.
Those will be mixed. 60% will be affordable.
So moved.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.